Thanks so much, Marcos. I'd like to thank Marcos very much because he actually did like 90% of my talk. So we share the same journey. Um, like Manulife's journey with creating a data science team started in 2015. A very grassroots type of sort of an experiment, really. Started with two people, and in terms of like doing this formally in more structured manner, I started heading the team in 2017. So it's sort of like a 3-year journey, but actually more serious journey happened like in 2017. And the point of my talk for today is really, it's not really strategy right at the onset. It sounds too arrogant, and I'm not trying to say that this is the right strategy, but sort of lessons learned and I guess my reflections and recommendations that I learned through the journey of starting a team in a year's time. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I worked for Manulife for almost 11 years now. I've done almost everything. I think I didn't do HR, I didn't do finance, but everything else in the insurance value chain, I have either done manual work or I have led teams in that. So I've got rich experience in insurance. But recently, when this whole data science hype happened, that piqued my interest. I became a practitioner of analytics, and I started learning on my own and try to deliver some, some ad hoc analytics on my own. And I think that was really the genesis of us starting to believe that we can do it in a shared service environment and then actually have some successes on it. Okay? So that's my intro. All right. So I want to briefly talk about, MBPS, which is the back office arm of Manulife, based in Manila. I want to briefly talk about the Advanced Analytics Organization. And again, I thank Marcos for talking a lot about predictive analytics, the concepts, and his whole journey, because, yeah, good thing I skipped that because I wanted to spend a lot of time on some of my reflections. And, please feel free to maybe ask questions later to give you more context, or if you need me to expound on some of the reflections here. Okay, so I want to recommend some strategies or action plans or initiatives in terms of the right people, the culture that I think works, the data or challenges with the data that we have, and a little bit about focus and how we should execute. Okay, so for your knowledge, we're based in Manila, but we do have a BPO arm based in Cebu and in Chengdu. And our organization is supporting everywhere where Manulife and John Hancock operates, in Asia, in US, and in Canada. And these are the functions that exists in Manila. Okay, I won't go over everything, but my team is situated with the actuarial and advanced analytics. All right, we're in the insurance world. We, especially in Manulife, we are very unique that the advanced analytics team is situated in the actuarial division. Everybody else has their advanced analytics team sitting in the marketing division. And I think I understand why it is, because a lot of the use case or the early use case of doing predictive modeling is on the propensity to buy models, like identifying who are the ones who are most likely to buy a certain product. But we do recognize that, for first off, our BPO center doesn't have a marketing team, so that kind of solves, like, that kind of made the decision easier. But at the second time, and I will talk to this point later, like the people in the actuarial world, the people who are very good in math, are knocking at the door in terms of the skills that they have that will fit the profile of a data scientist rather. Okay. So this is how we're organized. So in 2017, the company made a very serious decision to have a centralized global advanced analytics team, which is based in Canada there. And we have different analytics groups within Canada, in US, existing as the John Hancock Analytics team. And we have Manulife Asia, which is composed of 11 countries. So each of the 11 countries has their own BI, data, or analytics function. And then there's us, the very tiny Philippines there in the map. That's where my team is. I have 12 people right now. So in the chart that Marcos explained earlier, I do not handle the BI team. That's a different team. I also don't handle the RPA team. So that's a separate organization. But what I do handle are the people who are doing predictive analytics, the data scientists and data engineers, and to some small extent at the moment, some prescriptive analytics as well. Okay. So yeah, total of 12 FTE, but I'm very optimistic that because of the demand that we're getting, that we will accelerate our growth next year. In fact, I'm anticipating to double the team next year. All right, just I guess this is the team profile. This is the composition of my team. In terms of analytics experience, so what I mean by that is people who have used RStudio, R, Python, some other data mining, even in Excel, who are looking into doing some more advanced insight or data mining. I count that as years of experience. Okay. And then in terms of the education, the degrees, that where they're coming from, a lot of them, of course, coming from math and then statistics. Half of my team right now, of the 12 people, they are taking their masters currently. And yeah, I will talk about that soon. But it relates to the point that Marcos was telling about the whole difference between citizen data scientist versus the legitimate, I guess, data scientist, wherein we acknowledge that we're probably within the citizen data scientist category at this point. I don't call them like junior or, just for morale purposes. We call them data scientists for sure. But we recognize that we need a lot of training, formal training, experiential training, etc., so that we become true legitimate data scientists in the strictest sense. Okay. And then the chart or the table below just gives you a sneak peek of what the skill set of my team in terms of the technologies and techniques. And I'll speak a little bit about what these things mean. So I logged the no experience for the big data technologies. And I know most of you might not have heard of these technologies before, but this is something that's like a growth or a greenfield area for us, looking into big data. So big data, Hadoop is your file system, like your very, very big file system, right? And then the things like Pig, Hive, and Spark are the things that you use to tap into the data that's located in your Hadoop file system. Hive is very much related to SQL, wherein it's sort of a relational database as well, but it works on a platform that's very, very big and doing parallel processing. Okay, and then D3JS is a term that refers to a very interactive dashboard. So think about the dashboards that you saw earlier, and think about Tableau or ClickView or Power BI, but inject it with more steroids. It's more interactive. It's coded in HTML, in JavaScript, and in CSS, in custom style sheets. It's very interactive, and it's very, it has moving graphics, right? And then in terms of the advanced techniques that my team doesn't know yet, so we have deep learning and neural networks. These are, and simply put, these are just techniques to deal with very large amounts of data, right? So, Internet of Things, data about appliances, etc. That falls into the category of, some might say big data, and you need to do more advanced techniques in order to make sense of those data, rather than the traditional like logistic regression and decision tree type of techniques. Okay. So our bread and butter is within the, I guess, both the novice and experienced sections here. So we have been using ClickView for, I think, 5 years now. But I do agree with Marcos. I mean, we have a COE for ClickView, but I know that majority of the Manulife organization is still using Excel. But we're using ClickView, and then some folks are using Tableau, and recently we've realized a lot of the advantages of Power BI, because it's good at democratizing the data analysis. Drag and drop features, and the business, can easily, I guess, learn it compared to. I mean, this is just my opinion, by the way. I'm not from Power BI. And then in terms of the techniques, we're doing digital analytics, wherein we are looking at websites that we own. We tag them. We use Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics to track the activity of your customers. So where did they click? After clicking on a certain section, where did they go next? Are they stuck in the form? What sections of the forms are they struggling with? Should we change our website, etc.? So that's also part of what we're analyzing. Web scraping is a term wherein if your source are websites, we can develop a script mostly in Python, so that you can scrape that data within an HTML page, and you can transform that easily into a structured data that you can maybe link to your data warehouse, right? Text mining is another big one that we're using, and the application is understanding customer feedback from surveys, from phone calls, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere where our clients are posting feedback about the company, about their agents, and where we're trying to utilize these techniques so that we have speed to understand instead of like a human person looking at the comments one by one. Okay. And then, of course, data visualization, which I've covered earlier. And then in terms of the experience, so this is really where we start. We started SQL. Like, yeah, of course, I forgot Excel there, but majority of the tasks that we're using right now throughout that journey, we're slowly, at least in the team, we're slowly moving away from Excel, and we're using databases as the primary source of our data warehouse is the primary source of our analytics. So I've mentioned R, which is a statistical data mining, statistical tool. I've mentioned Python as well. And then SAS is a proprietary software. Okay. And then in terms of the techniques, we have data mining, regression, decision trees, clustering. These are all like your techniques of making either predictions or classifying things into certain groups, which is helpful in for example, the one that I mentioned about predicting who are the customers who are most likely to buy something or a certain product. Or if you want to do customer segmentation, but you want to do it statistically, so we do clustering. Okay. Okay. So moving on. So I'm gonna talk about like some of my experiences when, and I guess the growing pains of starting up an advanced analytics team. Starting with the people. Okay. So first lesson, build a talent pipeline by doing university tie-ups. So how we do this is, our office is very much like just across the State University of the Philippines. So it's where we've developed a relationship with them. And the next stage of what we're trying to do is to influence their curriculum by offering up some advice on what programs we can build or modify so that it meets the needs of the business. Understand related skills from other teams. So what I mean by that is within our organization. So I've mentioned the actuaries. They already have that analytical mindset. So that's a natural fit or natural progression towards like data science. And that's true for also your business analysts. We have like risk analysts, financial analysts as well within Manulife. And these are people who are interfacing some of the skills that you need to become a data scientist. So just being aware of that exists, and you can certainly go to them as a potential pipeline is useful. And third one, this is my, I guess, biggest tip for you guys is there's so many online courses. We heavily rely on this for us to learn R, to learn Python, and it's free. So I think in terms of the question, should we start or at least experiment if you guys can start creating an advanced analytics team on your own, or if you are trying to accelerate the development of your skills, we still heavily rely on online material for this. Of course, build a well-rounded team is another suggestion. There's no unicorn still. I have a team of data analysts, data scientists, data engineers, and in parentheses, because I don't have that skill set yet, is a creation of a data product. So a data product is like a fully made product that a consumer in the business can utilize. Instead of like creating like a model in R, you have like, a good example is, in the outside world is Waze. So Waze is, has predictive and prescriptive, functions, right? And that's what I mean by data product developers, but we're trying to develop products within insurance. Okay. Developing the right skills, focus on the skills, not the tools, and understanding the difference or the advantages, disadvantages of open source versus proprietary. So in our case, SAS is one of the big players in the proprietary space. One of the big difference is for open source, the community is very participative, and you've learned a lot about the community for R and Python, but there's no effort on that part to really formalize training as opposed to SaaS, wherein as part of their services, because they're selling these things, they want to make sure that they create a very robust training program for the products that they create. So that's one tip for you. So if you want to teach them, or if you need some kind of more formal training for potential advanced analytics people, then SaaS is very good at the formal training aspect. But if you need to just start right away, start with something free, but a little bit there, expect a little bit of learning curve from your staff, because they will have to learn from their own, then you can go through the open source tools. As I've said earlier, invest in formal education, right? So my team, half of them are taking masters, and a lot of them will be taking masters, including myself. And then balance specialization and rotation. So the knowledge and the skills here require, I guess, time for them to develop. And my philosophy is you really need time for them to learn these tools and techniques. Plus, they need to learn about the business, because when we hire them off the bat, insurance is not their core competency, and they really need some time to specialize first and be with the business in order to advance. And then lastly, a model that we're using is a coach and a trainee. So our coaches are onshore mostly, and my team is partnering up with building a close relationship with one coach. And then that proved to be successful for us, because it really accelerates their knowledge, both business acumen and technical skills. Just gonna speed up a little bit because I got the 5 minutes time here. In terms of the culture, I think, unfortunately for Manulife, such a big organization, there are still silos, both in both the data that we're looking at, data understanding, and also just from a priority and strategy perspective. So we often find ourselves still selling the idea of analytics, but I think it's incumbent still upon an advanced analytics team to be very, very clear and they should know what their value proposition is. And then my hope is we are able to get to that place where we flip the script and we truly are enablers of the business value that the business should own and drive. And the other cultural aspect to this is be ready to learn. So and listen to the business. So we do have people that have masters, and a lot of the advanced analytics teams onshore have PhDs. But just listening to the people, the SMEs of the business, actually helps a lot in delivering value to the analytics that they create, right? A good example is when we tried doing a predictive model for fraudulent activity, we were handing off like names to the police, and they were asking us like, why am I investigating these people, right? And they have different ideas on like I don't know why I'm investigating these people, and it required a lot of listening, a lot of empathy, as well as clearly explaining why the model is telling them that these people are mostly high risk for doing fraudulent activity. Okay. So next point is consolidating the small pockets of initiatives, have visibility to all data analytics initiatives to consolidate them and commit to knowledge sharing. The concepts and techniques in doing advanced analytics, again, it's very, very sophisticated. So the more you embrace a culture of sharing and collaboration, then the whole organization will definitely benefit. We also encourage a culture of innovation. So we don't try to kill ideas, but we do challenge them. because you don't want to focus a lot of your energies on something that's not scalable and not high impact. But we never kill them, right? We try to solve the barriers of, lack of skill, lack of time, lack of tools and ideas, and we're constantly experimenting on the operating model. So, like the FTE assignment model to the different, teams in Canada, in US, and in Asia. We're trying to mold that so that we have some flexibility for R&D, for new ideas, and just because we want to, encourage people to really create a solution and support grassroots initiatives. And then, lastly, on that point, we celebrate failures. One of the things that I've learned, to like a quote that I created was, and then I share this to everyone in my organization is, failure on its own is a result. And the faster you fail, the better it is for you to constantly refine your studies or your analytics, right? So we don't try to mock failure. Instead, we celebrate on it and we try to share our experience on it. Right? So, in terms of data, privacy regulations is a big thing. So I'm talking about like PII, or personable and identifiable information. So knowing the rules of the data owners. So like for example in Asia, 11 different countries, 11 different regulatory rules about sensitive data. You just need to know what the regulation is, and you need to trust the source of that information about what you can do and you can't do, and actually build a good relationship, if you can, with the regulators. Because one of the big hindrances on our analytics projects is, dealing with risk assessment on on sensitive data. That's a big bottleneck on our projects. Just moving on, automate data extraction. So this one really talks about our organization's move to building a data lake, a big platform. And the idea about this is it tries to solve the idea of doing ad hoc data extraction from the different disparate legacy systems. So it's a big undertaking, but we want to invest on that data lake in order to consolidate all of our assets so that we come up with a single version of truth, and whatever intermediate steps that we can automate, we try to automate. Another thing that I've learned very quickly with my process management background as well is there are tools that you can use to fix the quality of the data, and that's highly encouraged to explore. But what I find was bad data is a result of a bad process, right? And this is just a different way of, stating what the others in previous talks have already mentioned, right? So the importance of improving your processes, making sure that they're lean and lean, but you have some control so that the process is accurate and the data that it leaves behind is also accurate, is as equally important as investing on a data quality management software. And lastly, document. I don't think I need to explain this further. You've seen the picture from Marcos there. Whenever you have a project, documentation is zero. So we try to make sure that whenever we create a project, we want to think of the future and try to document it so that that document can be used to conform our data references and we don't have to go through the whole data understanding process we're in, which is another bottleneck on our projects. And then I'm nearing the close of my presentation. This is the last set of advice in terms of focus and strategy. One of the things that we've learned very quickly as well is, we've heard this a lot of times, but customer first. We need to develop even the advanced analytics solutions that we're creating. We need to really think of the customer. Instead of for example, if we're trying to sell a lot of policies and drive the upsell and cross-sell campaign within Manulife, we really can't position it as, make sure that each customer has 2 or 3 or more policies under their name. But instead, look at it from the customer's perspective. What do they need? Or what are their fears in terms of their financial security? And my belief is, if you think about that, and if you create advanced analytics projects that address that, then the upsell, cross-sell campaign will be successful, and then the shareholders will be happy, and then the employees will be happy, right? The other tip is eliminate waste. So, we've heard about, Lean, Six Sigma processes or tools. We're also, leveraging that as well. We haven't forgotten that. I think it's still the right way to go. And we look at, we have a, we have the critical eye on the reports that we do generate. And again, referencing Marcus's point that you should be able to be willing to give up reports that nobody reads, right? And that's what we're doing as well right now, is to just, retain the reports that, or even the ad hoc analytics that, that are beneficial to the business, but kill anything that's not being used. Be agile yet thorough. So we've heard so much about the agile. I'm a big believer of agile. You fail fast, you learn fast, and starting small and doing bite-sized piece of work is what I really suggest. So we do proof of concepts to pilots to projects to BAU to large-scale implementation. And the thorough part of it is, whenever we build an advanced analytics solution for a client, we don't drop it like a consultant. We stay at it. We acknowledge that there's BAU work after, and the business, we hand it off to the business, but we stay there so that if the business has questions about the science behind the models, then we're always available and we're willing to help. And that will make it much more successful. And then lastly, being disciplined in setting deadlines when in a project that entails a lot of trial and error, a lot of hypothesis testing. So this is something that's I guess a hot debate within my own organization in terms of managing these analytics projects, because it's very common that when we have hypotheses after looking at the data, that each of our hypotheses fail, and we take a lot of time redoing the stuff that we have done before. That's the nature of the beast. That's what we're dealing with here. That's science. You experiment, and then if you fail, you try again. But my point is, you need to have a timeline still. You need to set deadlines so that even though you acknowledge that you need to have some flexibility on your projects, you need to be disciplined, because at the end of the day, the CEO is expecting some value. So we normally have time boxes so that, data understanding, we just spend 2 weeks on this. Even if you have imperfect data or imperfect data quality or imperfect model, that's okay. you're dealing with like a probabilistic model anyway, and you really can't guarantee how your model will behave when you test it in the market. So fail fast and learn fast. Okay, that's actually everything I have. I know I've gone through a lot of points. I hope you picked up 1 or 2 points that help you. Maybe if you're thinking of starting an advanced analytics team, I suggest you go for it. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment because there are tools, online tools that are available for you. And if you are in the middle of that journey, I'd love to hear even counter arguments or different views on how we deal with all of these things that I've talked about. So that's it. That's it for my time. Thanks so much for listening. I'm not sure if we have time for maybe just one question. I'm happy to.
No more time.
No more time?
Thank you very much, Pocholo.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you. You can catch him during the break, and we now have short break. 1 second, please.
Sorry, guys. So in the interest of time, because we've got a closing plenary session with Matt Brady and